This is the weekly report for the second week of February 2009. I'm Mike Stone, Public Information Officer. DEM's Ben Nelson talks about drying conditions in the wake of a series of cold fronts and what this means for Floridians as we enter the dry season. Ben, we've been through a series of cold fronts, so in this aftermath of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different systems that's pushed through in the last several weeks, are we in the dry season, or the fire season as some may call it?
Well, Mike, with the freezes that we've had recently, we're rapidly entering what we consider to be wildfire season. And we can have fires each and every month out of the year, whether they be lightning caused or arson sparked. But really the months here in the upcoming February, March, and then especially April, May, and June, those tend to be our peak months of wildfire activity in the state.
Looking like going in for the balance of the winter into spring?
Well, we've had a very cold winter thus far, and that has really resulted in some extensive freezes. So you can see a couple of freezes here, this one being late January. This blue line denotes where the freeze line dropped down to, and you can see that's deep into the Everglades. We can also see the next freeze, February 5th. That dropped also pretty far south into South Florida with some hard freeze conditions indicated in the pink circles on both occasions around the Lake Okeechobee region. So that has really resulted in a lot of dry vegetation, again, fuel for the fire, if you will, as we move on through the spring months. What have we seen recently to mitigate some of this dryness? Rainfall over the past couple of weeks has, for the most part, been near to below average. You can see here in the, especially in the Florida Panhandle, these colors here in the orange and yellow, that's on the scale where we're below what's considered average for the past 2 weeks. Areas in Central Florida have had some rainfall that has been beneficial, but again, the freezes dried up a lot of this moisture. And South Florida, these areas are slipping further into drought with the combination of dry weather and the freezes that we have had. And so you can see the next image is the Keach-Byram Drought Index. This is more of a short-term drought index, but this takes into account both the rainfall and all the freeze activity that we've had. And you can see the areas around Lake Okeechobee on the scale from 0 all the way up to 800. We're getting some values that are in the 600 to 700 range for a lot of these counties around Lake Okeechobee, where this dryness and freeze has really combined to produce some conditions that are going to be very favorable or for the spread of any wildfires that do develop.
Ben, remind Floridians a little bit about our dry season.
Well, the dry season typically lasts from November through May. And again, in May is when we start to get these sea breeze thunderstorm activity and an increase in lightning strikes. But up until then, we have very dry conditions typically, particularly in the Florida Peninsula, because cold fronts and other storm systems typically take that jet stream track across the southeastern U.S. and leave the Florida Peninsula in the dry part of its wake.
So very important for Floridians to become firewise.
Absolutely. This is the time where folks need to look around their property, make sure that they have at least 30 feet in between their home and any kind of wildland area. That buffer zone is very important if we start to get into an active wildfire season, as is anticipated in the upcoming months.
For more information on drought preparedness and firewise safety tips, go to www.floridadisaster.org today.